And now, coming live from Blog Talk Radio, it's Wrestling365. You can call on the show at 347-327-9577, or you can call us on Skype at Wrestling News Radio. Also, have a question? Tweet us at 365 Sports Network. And now, here are your hosts for today's show, Alfonso Merriman and John Curry.
All right, folks. Thanks for joining us on episode number 2. It's me, Alfonso Merriman, with your co-host. What would you like to be known as? John Curry?
That works. That's my name,
right.
after all.
All right. Well, everything, they were saying that you're the Curry man. I didn't want to disrespect you that way.
No, that's Christopher Daniels.
Christopher, all right. All right, I want to thank everybody for joining us on episode 2. I want to say this is 1.8 because last week we had some technical difficulties audio-wise and me kind of going on the spritz there. But we're back, and I feel better than ever. I'm in the old hosting grounds of the old show. We got a lot of stuff coming up. We got special guests, former WCW manager Sonny Ono, and we also have the producer of the movie The Wrestler, Evan Ginsberg. So that should be some great wrestling talk here in a little while. And we have a bunch of topics today. We're going to talk about the return of Hulk Hogan, Undertaker, the build-up to WrestleMania, the WWE Network, and how amazing it really is. And I hope we have a great lineup for you for this week. What do you think about the return of the Hulkster and Hulkamania back into his hometown or home base of World Wrestling Entertainment? How did you enjoy watching him open up Monday Night Raw?
It was nostalgic. Hogan hasn't been in WWE in about 7 years, so I mean, huh?
Only
I said about
7 years?
I didn't say about,
no,
or only. I said about. But it's where he belongs. I think I hit on it last week. He didn't really deserve to be, or he shouldn't have even been where he was. I don't want to take any digs at the promotion that he was in that we all know, but it was nice. It's nice to see Hogan. And what would WrestleMania 30 be without Hulkamania, without the Hulkster back?
I agree, and we can't say where he came from. He hasn't been under a rock. It kind of seems like it was, but he wasn't TNA or Total Nonstop Action. We're not contracted under the WWE. But yeah, it is a great place for him to end his career. I know that I don't see where his run's going to go beyond WrestleMania, so it's going to be great. He was there part of the first Mania. I wanted to see more of him, though. I got to admit, I barked out when he came out, felt like a little kid again. But I wanted to see a little bit more, and I wanted to see him have more of a stronger role. I thought we were going to see him more of like a GM or a host where he had power, but he just kind of introduced himself. And I was just saying that I want to see him power so somebody could correct and fix this main event we have for WrestleMania, which is looking like Randy Orton versus Batista. But at the end of the day, it is great. It was great to see him. I love the fans and the crowd reaction to him. And I wanted to go and
the crowd reaction.
I wanted to kind of, yeah, it was awesome. The crowd, and lately all the crowds have been doing their thing. I've always given the crowds of WWE, a lot of heat, especially, you know me. I even walked out of Monday Night Raw, and we don't have to go back to that, but that was the Raw that NXT did, right? But yeah, it was just, it was great to see the reaction of the crowd, and I wanted to go into this. I know we spoke about Hogan last week, but what was your most memorable Hogan moment? He's had a long, amazing career. When you think of Hulk Hogan, what is the first moment that comes to your mind right now? Well, he's given so much to this industry,
I know one of my favorite moments with Hulk Hogan, WrestleMania 18, Toronto, Canada, Rock, Hogan face-to-face, and the crowd just going absolutely ape. I don't want to say the word, but and just the atmosphere from that match. Sadly, wasn't the main event, but if I had to pick my all-time favorite Hogan moment, at least, like I said, I didn't really get to see a lot of it. I wasn't alive for a good portion of it, but Missed a few years. But yeah, that's probably one of my favorite Hogan moments. What about you, Jay? Or Al?
It's okay. I get confused. You know what? I don't know if it's my most favorable, but right now, what's coming to my mind, it's my most memorable moment, is when he finally turned heel. And he joined the Outsiders at that amazing pay-per-view that featured Sting, Bluebeard, and Macho Man. I mean, you never had a heel. Yeah, it was in 1996, WCW Bash at the Beach, and that beat, that's what created the Monday Night Wars. I mean, it was huge. I mean, seeing our beloved Hulk Hogan, all these kids, I mean, they were almost crying, and
the babyface of professional wrestling for over a decade.
Exactly. He was the babyface, and for him to turn that way, the way he did, and he took that role. And he became Hollywood Hulk Hogan, and made me hate him even more at the time. And he really did a great job, and I think that had to do a lot with Kevin Nash and Scott Hall. I know they, over the years of watching different interviews, really helped them out. Because at first they didn't want to hear all that old brother stuff. They wanted to hear Hulk Hogan the heel, not Hulk Hogan the babyface when the NWO got started. But for me, that's one of the most memorable moments in his career that comes to mind right now. But again, this is the Hulkster. I mean, he's had so many moments in his illustrious career, from that huge body slam with Andre the Giant, and that's, I mean, there's so many things that he's done from facing The Rock and everybody else. It's just I'm very grateful, and I'm happy that WWE and Vince and Triple H and everybody came to terms and were able to get him to host one of the biggest WrestleManias. I mean, every 10 years, we're going to say, oh, my God, this is the biggest WrestleMania. It's WrestleMania 40.
Every 10 years. They say it every year.
Yeah, well, exactly. But, I mean, it's 30s. It's a 3-0. It's not 2-9. It's not 2-8. It's not 3-1. It's 3-0. So it makes it all that more spectacular for some reason. They got those 3 X's. I'm excited about it. And I just want to see him have a bigger role. Oh, the 3 X's? This is a family show, folks. This ain't 4 or 5 years ago. We had I don't know if this is a good segue, but the Undertaker did return on Monday Night Raw. How did you feel about it? Did it fall a little flat for you? I mean, he came out and now it's flat.
I set my own expectations a little high, Selfishly, who I wanted to come out, but it was nice. I mean, it was a CM Punk. You knew that.
CM who?
Exactly, Phil Brooks. CP Monk. CP Monk.
CP Monk.
I mean, it was kind of nonsense to be rooting for it because you knew it wasn't going to happen, especially with Raw in Chicago, and we're going to touch on that in probably about an hour or so. But it was nice. I mean, it's a match that's been rumored for a long time, especially when Dwayne backed out last year. And the only thing I didn't like was stabbing the Lesnar's hand with the pen. And if you saw the post show, he's holding the pen and the towel. And then when the camera pans on him, he's got the pen in his fingertips or between a couple fingers. And then when the camera backs away, it's back holding the pen, but he's trying to sell that he got stabbed. That was the only thing I didn't like. But just seeing Lesnar have fear in his eyes, just the look that he made when Taker was coming down to the ring instead of people having the fear of Brock Lesnar in them, that's a little bit different. But, yeah, I liked it. What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I'll be quite honest with you. I mean, Brock Lesnar showed that fear in his eyes kind of with, like, Big Show with his last feud. It's a little bit different. I really don't want to – I'll be honest, I don't want to see Lesnar versus Taker. I'd rather see Lesnar versus Batista at this point and have Taker go on and face somebody else. And that's just me being critical when I probably don't need to be. It should be a decent match. I know that, Taker, he always brings it all. He doesn't wrestle 11 months out of the year, pretty much. So he's pretty much 100% when the pay-per-view comes around. I don't know if Lesnar needs this match, and I don't think The Undertaker needs this match. I feel like Lesnar really has no chance of ending the streak, and I feel like Lesnar is going to go ahead and he's going to end up losing this match.
Well, obviously Lesnar's going to lose the match.
Yeah, but you see, that's what I don't like. What if you had Bray Wyatt come out and now
Bray
this
Wyatt
crazy...
wouldn't beat him either.
Well, you would think he had a better chance, though. Maybe Taker finally put somebody over. You know what I mean? I know. Why would they use his streak or end his streak? I'm sorry. Why would they end the streak against a legend like Brock Lesnar? Yeah, I called him a legend. He's done a lot in his career, both in WWE and UFC. So why would they use that? Right there, I know that streak is
a marquee matchup. It's a match that hasn't been done in 12 years.
But
I mean, I get your point.
Before, right?
I get your point completely, but why? Or if you're asking why they would do it, it's a marquee matchup. And after Dwayne backed out, they needed somebody high profile to face Brock Lesnar. So certainly, we're not going to get Triple H with Brock Lesnar for the 63rd time.
So put Brock Lesnar versus Batista. Make those two
that match would be all right. I'd be all right with that.
Yeah, 2 workhorses. I mean, for the love of God, get Batista a damn manager and let him talk, because I can't stand Batista. Batista's as bad on the microphone as Brock Lesnar is. You know, but I mean, get him a manager, have Batista versus Lesnar, bring Taker back and have him wrestle somebody with a little bit more substance and give me the illusion that Taker might lose at WrestleMania. I know Taker is not going to lose against Brock Lesnar, you know. I know. I'm at the end of the day, though, it is Taker, and I'm very happy to see him back. It's funny. I don't know if you noticed, but as Taker gets older, I'm getting even more scared. He's getting all those wrinkles in his face, and him coming out.
He's the dead man. If he keeps wrestling every year, he's going to start looking like the dead man.
And that's what's going on right now. He's got that mohawk, which is not really a mohawk. It's like a frohawk. I don't know.
It's a Taker hawk.
It's a Taker hawk. I'm excited at the end of the day. I mean, it's Taker, and whoever Taker faces at Mania is always it's a good thing to have Taker, because believe it or not, we're almost there, and it's at the end of his career. Maybe we got one more year, and we're lucky, and we're not going to see him, and hopefully that last match is against Sting, and everybody's going to be happy, and who knows what's going to happen next.
I don't really agree with that. His last match against Sting, no. Who was it? I think it was JR that said it in a blog. WrestleMania, if it takes place in Texas, Dallas or Cowboy Stadium, Taker, Cena.
Texas?
Cowboy Stadium. WWE's wanted WrestleMania at Cowboy Stadium for years.
So you will want Cena versus... Is that what I said?
Why not? Cena's the only... If you look at history, Cena, aside from Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock, Cena is the only marquee star that's never faced Taker at WrestleMania. Orton, Edge, Michaels, Hunter. Who's really... Mark Henry. Who else? Big Show. Am I forgetting anybody here, Chris? By the way, we got a little bit of left. Kane, like 63 times. Speaking of, if anybody wants to give their thoughts while we're giving our thoughts, if you want to call on the show at 347-327-9577. That's 347-327-9577. Back to you, Al.
All right, I'm going to quiz you right here. Do you know all of our social media outlets? So you can tell all the listeners where to follow us, because I sure as hell don't.
We have a Facebook page. It's facebook.com/365 show. You can follow us on Twitter at 365 Sport Network. You can go to my website, 365 or sportsnetwork.com. Or Al, tell them your Twitter handle. Twiddle handle, yes.
My Twiddle handle. Okay, I just created this Twiddle handle. That is like the worst thing I've ever heard in my life, right?
Okay, you are, of all people, have no room to talk about speaking like that.
Anyways, it's at AL365 Network. So be sure to go ahead and follow me, retweet our show, ask any questions. We have many outlets. And let's continue with the show, all right?
By the way, check out wrestling-news.net. Okay, hold on. Cheap plug.
Cheap plug. You sound like Mick Foley over here. We're here live from Miami. Never. All right, we got. I wanted to have a little bit of our reaction to Raw and the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view that just happened. A lot of matches look like they're starting to brew up onto the road to WrestleMania. It's an exciting time, as always, leading up to WrestleMania. I didn't want this show to be a recap show, so I'm not going to bore everybody with, okay, this segment after this segment, and, oh, there was a commercial break during that time. No. I know that people don't want to hear that because you've already seen it. So we're going to have a little bit of reaction from myself and John. And starting with the chamber match, what is the main thing that pops up to you, John, that kind of like, made an impression on you, which is leading up into the Raw and WrestleMania coming up?
Honestly, the only thing that really had my interest going into the pay-per-view was the chamber match. Aside from the first match of the year candidate WWE's had all year, Shield Wyatts. What an awesome match that was.
That was can I say breathtaking almost? That performance was amazing from both ends of the
They had the crown in the palm of their hand before they even stepped foot into the ring. Just the two teams standing on opposite ends of the ring for Raw for the last month. You had the crowd out of their seats going absolutely nuts. And these teams put on a hell of a performance, especially Roman Reigns. And I don't want to seem a little biased because he's the WWE's golden boy going forward. But, I mean, for most of that match, he was the one in the match, especially after Ambrose went to Walmart or wherever he went. And Seth Rollins got taken out. But it was an awesome, awesome match, which I thought it went even longer than it did. So that even tells you how much I enjoyed it. What do you think? I have a feeling we're on the same page with that. But
oh, no, I mean, there's nothing negative to say about this match. Maybe at the time I did say negative things, but that's just to get our great reporter over at Wrestling-News.net, Wayne Daly, going. But I thought it was a great match. I mean, it was all the raw emotion that I look forward into what we love about wrestling. The performances have been great leading into it, and that's all they need to do. You have a great build to a match, and you're going to have a great match. That's how it works, and that's how it's always worked. The crowd was loving it. They didn't know who to boo, who to cheer. It was something of magic. I'm happy. It was a tough. I'll tell you, it was really tough because I wanted it to almost to go to a draw because I love both teams how they're going. I wanted Roman to go over, but it led to Bray Wyatt going over. And then we saw what happened during the main event where the Watt family goes ahead and attacks John Cena, which is leading to it looks like an amazing, amazing match. And hopefully Cena puts over Bray and we continue this role of Cena and Orton starting to step back a little bit. And we're starting to see these young guys kind of come over.
It's the first time, though, really, if you think about it in like the last decade, it's the first time we've had new stars really get somewhat of a spotlight since Cena's class came up. Cena, Orton, Batista, Lesnar. I mean, you had guys like Morrison, Carlito, MVP, Jeff Hardy to an extent. Guys get a little bit of a spotlight, but they never really, amounted really to much. So, I mean, do you think these guys fall in the same category as, I don't want to say flash in the pan because they weren't, but do you think that Roman Reigns, Bray Wyatt, do you think they're going to just fade away like guys we thought were going to be the next future of the business? Or do you think these guys are for real? I didn't mean to cut you off. It's just something I was thinking about.
I honestly think that this is a different time in world wrestling entertainment. It's not only that they want to have stars, they want to continue establishing stars. I think Triple H, he's walked over so many people's toes in the past that now he's I this is me, this is my opinion. I'm not saying, oh my God, I read this, this is true. But maybe he's rectifying the situation of everyone that's been buried, and now they've created this great performance center, and they do want guys like Bray Wyatt to move on into the future, and Roman Reigns, and I don't think they're going to be a footnote in the history of world wrestling entertainment. I think they're going to be more than that. I think they're going to hopefully we could see one of these two guys in the Hall of Fame, if not both. And that's what we could pray to want. I mean, that's what we want to see, right? I mean, why would we want to see these guys get these major pushes and nothing happens? I don't think we've had it in the past where Ziggler gets pushed, and he's taken away from us. And other stars that, like The Miz, he's being pushed, but they're being taken away from us. I see Roman Reigns and Bryan and the Shield. They've been doing it right with them, and I don't think they're just going to take them away. They're building their own value, and the difference between back then and now, The Miz didn't be. Bray Wyatt's still not champion. You know, before they were throwing the belt like if it was a piece of garbage to everybody. Dean Ambrose has had the United States Championship for how long? And then, you know,
10 months.
I think 10 months. I mean, things are
going
changing.
on 10 months.
Exactly. So things are changing, and the landscape, I think, is changing. And I think after all these years of all the fans and all the gossip websites and all the radio shows, it's finally coming. It's coming around to where, you know what, these young guys are getting a real chance. That, hey, you're a 25-year-old like Jack Swagger. You look the part. You had the physique. We're going to throw the damn belt on you. Why not? And then look where you know it's taken them a while to get back on that mainstream again. I don't think that's going to continue to happen. I think they're doing it correct now, and at least that's what I'm hoping for. You know, I think that into the future, we're going to see these guys. You know, they're growing up before our eyes, and WWE understands you got to give them a chance and not force it onto the fans. Let the fans learn to love their wrestlers. Let the fans say, I like this guy, I hate this guy, I want to know more about this guy. And with the avenue of the WWE Network and social media and WWE.com and our sites and our wrestling show, they're going to give that chance now. I don't think it is like how it used to be. I mean, what do you think? Am I far-fetched? Do you feel the difference?
I don't think they could afford to have any more, you know, screw-ups with trying to develop talent like they did with guys like John Morrison or MVP or like a Mr. Kennedy, Bobby Lashley, guys that they had on a pedestal, only for the pedestal to crumble underneath them. I mean, they don't really have the option because Cena goes down. I mean, if they have an injury bug like they did or a suspension thing where they did like a couple years ago where Orton was out and Jericho was out, Mysterio was out, you had what? Cena versus...
Nobody.
Who the hell was he feuding with?
Miz probably at the time.
John Laurinaitis. He was feuding with the goddamn general manager.
Yeah, and right now, I don't think that would be a problem. If John Cena goes down, they have enough.
If they build them up.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
That's one thing I get into debates with people a lot. Is in order for talent to really, at least to me, to be really taken seriously as serious main event caliber competitors, you need to make them look serious. You can't have a guy like Alexander Rusev who just debuted going into the main event. How are you going to take him seriously if you don't know, if you haven't seen him? Or if you take a joke guy like Zack Ryder or Santino or, you know, I don't know. But basically, I just don't think they can afford to have too many people, you know.
But I mean, right now you wouldn't have to push a guy like them off of NXT because, you know, you do have enough established mid-card level stars that could take it. You know, Daniel Bryan stepped up really strong in John Cena's absence. And so John Cena came back at Hell in a Cell, which I was attending, and won the title off of Alberto Del Rio. But I think there's enough stars right now that they could afford to lose a John Cena, which is kind of crazy to say, and still put on one hell of a pay-per-view at WrestleMania. All right, it looks like we have somebody on the call. I'm going to go ahead and pick them up. You're on the air.
Hey, this is Sonny Ono speaking.
Hey, Sonny Ono, thank you so much for joining us. I know you've been busy. I really appreciate you joining us on the show. How's it going?
Man, I'm chilling today, but boy, I tell you, talking about chilling, it is cold outside.
It's cold out.
It's ridiculous.
Where do you reside now?
Well, I'm in Iowa, northern Iowa. It is close to Minnesota. I mean, they've been closing the highway every week because it's so cold, and It's ridiculous.
I want to thank and let all of our listeners know that this former WCW manager, Sonny Ono, they were there for 94 to 99 to, what was it, 1999, 2000 roughly?
Yeah, 2000. Yeah, end of 2000.
And I know
the end
you.
of 2000, I should say.
To the end of 2000. I know you managed a lot of the great Japanese wrestlers of all time over there. How was your experience out there? Just to let our guests know. I know it's been a big gap. I even had some friends asking me, who is Sonny Ono? I freaked out. Are you saying that's how old I am? But yeah, let them know a little bit about you.
Well, I managed I handled the Japanese invasion at World War III pay-per-view, and that was bringing in Masa Saito, the Kanemotos, the Jushin Liger, those big stars from New Japan Pro Wrestling. That was the beginning of our relationship with the New Japan Pro Wrestling. So I worked behind the scene as to the person who handled a lot of those details to bring those superstars from New Japan into the United States and on WCW. And as only person who could speak English amongst the Japanese, so I managed all the Japanese wrestlers, and I was privileged enough to bring in and manage people like Ultimo Dragon, and Chono and Muda, which is they were already big time star before I got involved, but and for the long stay, I managed the Yuji Nagata, who is currently a big star over in Japan, has been for the last 5-6 years with New Japan Pro Wrestling. And, Kaz Hayashi, we did angle with. Now he's I believe he's the head booker for Junior for All Japan, or Wrestle One company in Japan right now, who's currently, matter of fact, he texted me yesterday and told me that he was about to get ready to do a show with TNA All-Stars, which they're over there doing a promotion, inter-promotion wrestling matches over there.
That's awesome. And I remember you also working with the likes of Ernest the Cat Miller and Ultimo Dragon as well.
Right. Yeah, Ernest and I hooked up because we're both have a martial art background, intense martial art background. So we just that's how we got together, and people made people who didn't really know the reason for me managing Ernest was that Ernest didn't need a mouthpiece. He really didn't need a manager, but he needed a little sidekick. And that's why Ernest and I got together. That I was a little sidekick for him. So I was never his mouthpiece. That was not my intent as I was with the Japanese and a lot of the luchadors that I manage. So it's a little bit different approach to what manager does.
Now, how was it during your time there in WCW? I know that you were there in a huge transitional period when it started the Monday Night Wars. And I know that you were the first actual member of the NWO that was an international star. I don't know if you were aware of that, but how was your feeling and how was your time in that company? Did you enjoy it, or did you enjoy it and then grow out of it? How was it for you personally?
Well, you have to understand, and that 97, 98 was probably height of certainly for WCW, and I believe it was the height of professional wrestling to date. I mean, as far as how popular we were between WWF or WWE and WCW, I think our rating on the television was unbelievable. We were doing, up to 10 hours of television, just WCW alone. Between Monday Night Nitro to Thursday Thunder to Saturday Night Worldwide to a syndicated show, we were doing 10 hours of television and getting amazing amount of rating. And so I was privileged to be involved at the time when the wrestling was probably most popular, in the United States at the time. And so I really enjoyed it. And far as the NWO angle goes, that I was bringing in Chono. If you remember the storyline, I was bringing in Chono, which is one of the big stars from New Japan Pro Wrestling, and he double-crossed me and joined the NWO doing a Monday Night Nitro show. And so consequently, a few weeks later, I brought in Great Muta to avenge my defeat or double-cross by Chono. And what happened was the Muta joined Chono and triple-crossed me, if you can call it that, and thus began the NWO Japan angle, which was one of the largest or the biggest angle that had in New Japan at the time. We were selling summer of '98. I think we sold like $5 million worth of the T-shirt, NWO T-shirt. In New Japan alone.
That is amazing. I didn't know it was that big over there as well.
It was crazy. People would just buy a ticket just to be able to buy a T-shirt, and not watch the show but leave. I mean, they went beyond wrestling fan. It was so big over there, and I think it was one of the biggest angle promotion that New Japan had in the history of New Japan.
Was there a lot of ups and downs in that locker room, like they say? I mean, or did you keep yourself away from all the politics, or was it just a part of the nature and the nature of the beast? How big WCW got and all the egos. How was that backstage when you were there?
Honestly, I didn't involve myself in a lot of that stuff. But when you have a room full of superstars and has amazing amount of egos, and everybody that in that room believe that they should be on top of that ladder, they're going to be frictions. And I think company grew so fast, we got so popular so fast. I'm sure there were disgruntled employees at the time, but there's no secret that I'm real good friends with Eric Bischoff. We known each other before wrestling and after wrestling. Matter of fact, he texted me yesterday from some sushi bar he was sitting at, just trying to make me a little jealous. But the truth is, people can bitch and moan about Eric Bischoff, but if it wasn't for Eric Bischoff creating the angles and making or being part of making a decision to make the wrestling or WCW a great rival with WWE, if it wasn't for that, all the talent would have never made those millions of dollars. So, end of the day, whether you like Eric or you had an issue with Eric, you got to thank the guy for what he did for you, directly or indirectly. Because if it wasn't for that, the rivalry that was created between WCW and WWE, and people fighting over talent, they would never gotten those monies that they would have gotten. And to prove that, since WWE bought WCW, I don't think I think people had to get. I don't think their salary certainly hasn't grown, and I can almost assure you a lot of those guys' guaranteed salary went south.
Things have definitely changed. I mean, I remember, wasn't there a time that wrestling was outgrossing and now taking the NFL, out here? Remember those days? That was insane how big professional wrestling got back in the day.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like I said, we were on television, 10 hours a week, which is unheard of. And I think pinnacle of how popular we were and how mainstream we were was when Eric Bischoff actually hosted Tonight Show, and took the spot away from Jay Leno. That's how popular we were. How mainstream we were. I think some of the big fans, history fans, will remember that wrestling was bigger than ever at that time.
And then let me ask you this: do you think that the downfall of WCW was its own growth and how fast they actually grew? Did World Championship Wrestling just grow way too fast, or was it that Ted Turner had enough, or he didn't want to pay out all these salaries? What do you feel about that?
I think what happened was when I don't know the in and out of it, and I don't know all the details, but I think what happened, in my perspective, was that when a company got so big, and unfortunately that was a time when TBS was involved in acquisition by AOL Time Warner. And I think all those things come into play about what was being allowed to be on television, and their vision of what was to be on TBS and TNT, I think, changed. I think that's when when things start going south. So it wasn't because we were the company was popular, or I think Ted Turner himself loved. What wrestling was, and if Ted Turner was still in charge, I think we still be on television, on TBS and TNT.
And I'm sorry, I got my timelines a little confused. So were you there also when Vince Russo was there as well?
Well, Vince Russo came in and got rid of all the Japanese, and
yes,
I was there.
I remember that.
All the Japanese and all the Mexican off TV without any reasons.
And how was that? How was your reaction to that?
Well, end of the day, when you were supposed to be, it doesn't matter where you come from. If you're if you're in a position of authority, you can't make a statement like, I'm from America and I want nothing but American on television. And funny, coming from a guy named Russo, whose probably grandparents came on a boat as well.
Myself, I'm Cuban too, so my grandfather literally came on a boat.
Right.
Yeah, so,
it's interesting, how his vision of America consists of only certain type of people, and he continued to. He just eliminated all the luchadors and all the Japanese off TV immediately.
And I had a question. I don't know if this is. I don't even know if you want to talk about this, and I don't want to disrespect in any way. But I know once you did, at the end of your WCW career, you had to file a lawsuit against the company. Is there any way you could go into detail with that, or is that something that you cannot speak of?
No, the truth is they're settled the dispute, and I have just signed a 2-year contract. When Russo came in, and because they try to terminate that contract, and that's what the bias, that's one of the basis of the suit, and where he went about it publicly. It was no brainer for us, but end of the day, they settled, and because of Russo and the management who try to take over Eric's position, he went down south real quick after that. They tried to bring Eric back in short time to try to save the company, but I think it was beyond saving at that point. And Eric did make a last-ditch effort to try to buy the company after that as well.
Yeah, remember he had a group of investors lined up, but it just didn't pan out at the very end.
Well, it didn't pan out because the network would not guarantee to broadcast their show. So without having a television, without having a secure television, the deal went south.
So since they didn't have that TV deal, they had nowhere to go, pretty much.
Well, yeah. Eric, from what I understand, is Eric offered to buy the company, and they came to a term, but they refused to guarantee him a platform to broadcast his television. Without that, it's like buying a Lamborghini without tires.
I agree.
What good is it? Except you sit in the garage and look at it and goes, boy, it's a nice car.
No, I agree 100%. And just going back to Eric Bischoff, I have a lot of wrestling people that I know, and I was talking about this within the last couple of days and how much I miss watching, having the cruiserweight division in today's mainstream, WWE, Monday Night Raw, SmackDown, or even, TNA's trying with the X division. Eric Bischoff's idea behind he was always for the cruiserweight division and bringing all these stars in. Was that always his idea?
Well, absolutely. I think especially when we went to 3-hour Nitros and 2-hour Thunder, and we needed more talent. And at that point, we had secured the access of New Japan talent that we had a talent exchange program where we get to use superstars from New Japan Pro Wrestling. Along with that, there was a lot of great wrestler cruiserweight that was working for New Japan at the time. Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, Ultimo Dragon, Chris Jericho, Dean Malenko. So those are the guys that was working for New Japan at the time, and along with that talent exchange program, Eric brought him over to WCW, put him on the WCW contract, and so that those guys can work United States as well as continue to work in Japan, and they were the wrestler that. And this is certainly on just my perspective, that was so entertaining of how fast they work, how quick they were. They were hybrid of Japan wrestling, and as most of those guys that I just forementioned work for a Mexican promotion as well. So they could work with all the luchadors, but they could also work the Japanese style, which was much stiffer and much longer matches. So they were a great addition to our television, which made WCW a little unique than WWE.
Do you think that? And I don't know if you're still watching the product, but do you still watch Raw at this time and WWE?
I watch TNA. I don't watch as Raw as much because it's a very difficult. I think it's a very hard thing to keep the interest of the wrestling fans, and keeping the storylines, and I think that's that's a very week in and week out, try to keep it interesting, So
do you still think that in this? Do you think that the American fans are missing out on some great, the cruiserweights from back in the day? You think that can come back to light, even if it was in TNA? I know they're working with some Japanese wrestling organizations, and they just put on a great pay-per-view last night. Do you think that could come back to light and give the fans another option, not just seeing these 300-pound men wrestling around? We have a huge gap. I mean, now I have my son. He's only 2 years old. I know your son's doing some wrestling as well on a state level. Do you think that we can see that happen ever again, where we have these different styles of wrestling in the States get popular again, and the Dean Malenko is a household name, or Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero? Or even Ultimo Dragon, for that matter.
Right. Matter of fact, Ultimo Dragon just called me yesterday. I'm doing a show actually here in town on May the 10th, along with Sports Festival. They're doing a professional wrestling show in the evening on May the 10th. But and I invited some of my friends to come and be a part of the show. But to answer your question, I believe, mind you, this is only my perspective. I think with 2 and 3 hour wrestling show and having the product out there, I think it's it's important to have variety of wrestlers. You know, I mean, you need the big names and bigger than life characters, because that's who they are. But I think the great athletes and athleticism of some luchadors and certainly some of the cruiserweights from Japan is missed here. The current fan of last 5 to 8 years hasn't seen those guys on American television, and I don't think they realize how great those guys are. And not only that, I'm a great fan of Joshi wrestling, which means women wrestling in Japan. You know, I think one of the best matches, amazing matches that I have ever witnessed is with people like Bo Nakano and Chigusa Nagayo and of course these are some of the people I manage and WCW. With like Hokuto and Akira Hokuto is probably, she's a big time television personality now in Japan currently, and with her husband Kensuke Sasaki, and I just believe that American wrestling fan are missing a lot of that. Certainly the current wrestling fans are, and it's unfortunate because the platform isn't here. And you understand the Japanese wrestling style and American wrestling style is different in a sense that, here it's a segment, television segment, and commercials, and over there, it's 35-minute matches and 45-minute matches. I mean, those guys go at it. It's amazing matches that you can't believe. Because, their version of pay-per-view is really big dome shows where, for 180,000 to 100,000 people come and watch. And there's no commercials. I mean, it's a match that goes on for, 30 and 40 minutes.
Yeah, the art of wrestling, that's what I love the balance that WCW had for so long where, you had the performance of the Hulk Hogan's and Scott Steiner's and the Stings, and then you had the art of wrestling when you had the Japanese wrestlers going against the Mexican stars and bringing a unique dynamic to the show and into the ring. I always used to complain at that age. Wow, I'm getting a little bit older, I feel it, but I used to complain that they didn't give him enough time there because I loved it so much. So hopefully,
you got to look at a television. You got to look at a wrestling show like this, and that we all like to eat steak. We all like to eat. I'm in New York and prime ribs, but
yes.
we also want some variety in our plate, and I think luchadors and some of the women wrestling and I'm not talking about just TNA wrestling, but the women who can really wrestle, the women who wrestles, and you go up to them and you go, boy, I sure would not want to have this woman get pissed at. You know what I mean? I mean, those women can kick your rear end real quick.
Or maybe you do. Who knows?
Yeah, but those are the things that I think it's missing. And they don't have to be and necessarily have to be and too much of a soap opera type of storyline. It's a tough great wrestler wanted to be number one against another wrestler who wants to be number one. I don't think you need to be a lot of storyline involved in that. It's just the fact that it's just like why do you go see a fight? Why do you go see a boxing match or UFC matches? Not because the background or storyline or soap opera that is created by them. Because you want to watch two tough guys go at it and find out who's better.
I agree 100%. And speaking of tough guys, your son, I've been seeing you post his interviews and he's kicking some butt out there. How does it feel looking at Kaz Ono, your son, competes at the level that he does already?
Well, state of Iowa, to clarify something, in state of Iowa, And I'm sure the state of Pennsylvania and the state of Illinois and Minnesota and other surrounding states have, great high school wrestling. But the state of Iowa does not have professional athlete teams. There's no professional, and there's no NBA, there's no NFL. So when it comes to wrestling, it's embedded into the core of pores of every hardworking guys. And it's a blue collar sentiment that it's in Iowa, and it's the biggest thing that happens. They sell out a 17,000 seat arena in a matter of minutes. That's where the finals are, and for 4 days in the state of Iowa. You've seen some of the pictures that I sent you. That you've seen on Facebook.
I saw that.
It's a packed house, and it's the biggest thing happens in the state of Iowa is high school wrestling finals. And my son went his senior year. He went 44-0 with 26 falls and 6 tick fall. And he won the state championship this year without being taken down the whole season. And, so he did really well. He accomplished his goal, and he's being looked at and recruited by a lot of the great colleges in the country.
That is right. How does it feel, you as a father, seeing your son level and accomplish these goals?
Well, it's great to. I mean, he lost last year at finals by one point and a controversial ending of the match, and he vowed himself to not to let that happen again. And like I said, and it's nice to watch your kid dedicate himself and sometimes work out for 9 hours a day. Making sure that the history wasn't going to repeat himself, and dominating fashion. He went to won the state this year. So having a storybook ending to a great high school career for him is I'm grateful for that. But I'm more grateful that the sports of wrestling, amateur wrestling, teaches the individual. Because at the end of the day, it's not like we lost because somebody didn't pass me the ball or somebody dropped the ball or it's not a social event. It is only sports that is taught in schools and collegiate system that it's a martial art. It's fighting. So it's fighting. Yes, there is a rules, but end of the day, it's fighting. Fighting with a certain amount of rules, but it's fighting. And as a parent, it's always better to watch your son beat the crap out of somebody versus having your son get crap beat out of you. I'm fortunate this year that my son never lost. So it's a great feeling, and it's a great accomplishment for him. And I love the discipline, the self-discipline, everything from dieting to amazing amount of training that they do, and to accomplish their goal. It's a life, life lessons that he can't never achieve doing other sports, that I believe anyway. So it's a great sport, wrestling.
That's awesome. I'm very happy for you and your son. You must be proud of them. And I got, one last question before we let you go. And at this point in your life, what wakes you up in the morning? Do you miss performing in front of millions of viewers each and every week? Or is that behind you and you're just living your life, enjoying what you do on a daily basis?
Well, we do projects, and I still do work as an international consultant. I work to create business or to help secure business, a project, and I like it much better because it's a one project to another, and you know, it's not a constant sustaining. One of the hardest thing that I admire all the professional wrestler, that it's current and past, is that the grind that they have. You know, certainly the toll they takes on their body, to their certainly their social life, their family life, because you're on the road, you know, 300 plus days a year, and you know, it's hard to maintain any kind of a normalcy being on the road like that. I was fortunate enough that, you know, I got to stay home and be able to watch my son, as I just mentioned, watch him go through all 4 years of college. I never missed one of his matches, and you know, I was fortunate to be able to do that. So you
That's
know,
awesome.
yeah. So you know, do I miss it? I don't miss it being on the road. I miss my friends that I acquire, but you know, with a lot of the technology these days, I get to stay in touch with all the people from Japan. And when I do go visit, I make sure to go see them. I just talked to Michi Saito, which is Masa Saito's wife. So I stay in touch with all those guys. And Ernest was just here last week doing a radio show for the upcoming River City Sports Festival that we'll be promoting here on May 10th, as I mentioned earlier. And,
awesome.
And so, you know, we get to do projects, and it's fun, and we get to do things on my term. We just announced that Garrett Bischoff from TNA will be here.
All right.
And I believe with Garrett being here, you know, Eric Bischoff might be an audience. I won't bet against that.
All right, sounds great. I want to thank you so much for joining us. I would love to have you back in the near future. And thank you for all the memories. You know, I really appreciate all the years you gave us as a wrestling fan. And I hope that everything goes great on May 10th. And please keep in touch. I really appreciate your time, Sonny.
Yeah, as he gets closer to the event day, you know, I can bring some of the people that's going to be here promoting.
Awesome.
You know, the Goldberg of the world is we talked to them already. The Raven, some of the Nitro girls will be here. So
awesome.
It's going to be a pretty good event.
All right, awesome. And what we'll do, we'll go ahead and we'll be plugging in on wrestling-news.net. And we'll definitely, all the press releases, you send it to me directly. We'll get a couple guys on the show, and I hope everything goes well with the show, and we'll definitely be in touch, Sonny.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on the show.
No, thank you for taking time out on a Sunday. I really appreciate it.
All right. It was fun. Thanks a lot.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, folks. That was none other than Sonny Ono. I hope you guys enjoyed that interview. We got Evan Ginsberg showing up here in a couple of minutes. John, are you around? Are you alive?
Yeah, I'm back.
All right, sorry. Yes, okay, my bad. You were so quiet.
You're good.
So how did you enjoy the interview? Yeah?
Informative. It's nice to see somebody who's not as much of a known name from WCW, especially around the Monday Night Wars, but it's nice to get their perspective on everything that happened. And I mean, anybody who's really been in the wrestling business, it's nice to get their perspective on major events that have happened and just a retrospective of their entire careers.
Yeah, I mean, I used to grow up, I used to think that he was nuts coming out to the ring and doing his thing. He used to put it all out there, you know, and he used to entertain me when I was younger, so it was great to touch base with him, and we'll definitely be touching base with him in the future.
Anytime he wants to come back, he's more than welcome.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm sure we'll have some people from his upcoming indie show coming up on our show, and we'll definitely be going through that. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get my grounds here. I know we got Evan Ginsberg, the producer of The Wrestler, coming up here shortly. And I also know that we were talking about John Cena and Bray Wyatt before. And I don't know if you want to continue with that.
Well, if you need a second to collect yourself, we have a commercial that can add if you want to do that.
Is it that one commercial that I heard earlier?
Yes, it is.
That sounds like a damn great idea. Go ahead.
All right, here it is. We'll be back in just a moment. Next week, Wrestling365 goes extreme. Don't miss an exclusive interview with former WWE, ECW, and TNA superstar, the War Machine, Rhino. It's Wrestling365 next Sunday, March 9th, 5 to 7 p.m. Well, there you have it, guys. Next week we got another big-time interview. Former WWE, ECW, and TNA superstar War Machine Rhino. I'm not trying to repeat myself, but Rhino will be on the show. Well, sort of next week. You guys will be hearing well, he'll be on the show, but you guys will be hearing an exclusive interview between Mr. Merriman and Rhino next week, probably about, I don't know, 6:30 maybe. We'll figure that out during the week.
It's only because let's let the fans know, all right? It's only because I'm going to be having a huge TNA weekend. And no, not TNA the way you're thinking, Total Nonstop Action Wrestling. And it's going to be a little bit crazy. I'm going to be doing live reporting. And I figured we we'll have an interview, but I'll be there, but I kind of won't because we're going to pre-record it. But it should be great.
Well, you're not going to be here. That means I get to step into my old host hat, put my old host hat on one more time. And we got Mr. Timothy Gibbons, I believe, may be here. Mr. Michael Taj Gallagher from Wrestling-News.net is looking like he's going to be filling in some shoes next weekend. So it should be a good show. Maybe we got the Rhino interview. Figure out what we're going to do during the week.
And who knows? You never know.
Like party when the parents aren't home because you're not going to be here. And I get to take the steering wheel next week. So, yeah, we'll see what we got.
Yeah, but only for like 5 minutes because I would be checking in every once in a while probably with some
just like the cautious parent leaving that 13-year-old alone behind. Hey, wait a minute. You trying to make me think that I'm like a 13-year-old and you can't trust me alone?
I don't know about a 13-year-old. That's a little young. Oh, man. All right, let's get back into this. We got a lot of topics to discuss. I'm sure. Well, Evan's going to be calling in a few minutes here. Let's go ahead and cover. We already kind of went over Bray Wyatt and John Cena. Let's kind of discuss our feelings about Triple H and Daniel Bryan. Or I just don't want to bring in the CM Punk factor here because we got a big discussion going on with Evan Gesberg in a little bit here after his recent post on his Facebook. But what do you think? You think this match is going to be locked in and solid, and we are going to see the Beard versus the game? I don't even know what to call him. I was going to say the game. I was going to be like Stephanie McMahon.
The King of Kings, the Cerebral Assassin. Hey, you guys told me to try to get the little impressions on the air, so I figured I'd do a little watered-down version of it. What the hell?
It works.
I don't see. I'm torn between that because I want to see Daniel Bryan in the main event, WrestleMania, win the world title, but he's more grunts. Thanks for the feedback. Appreciate it. I want to see Daniel Bryan in the championship match. It kind of feels like it would be a long-term storyline finally coming to an end, even though, they say WrestleMania is the big show, and yet nothing is ever settled at WrestleMania because, they have to do like 64 more rematches right afterwards. But I kind of like it. If he's not able to settle his problems with Randy Orton for the world title, then settling with Triple H, who has been holding him down ever since SummerSlam, is the next best step. What do you think?
I mean, yeah, it should be a good match. If this... I kind of wish. I don't even know. I would have liked it to happen at the Chamber pay-per-view, and then Daniel Bryan be in the main event. And I know a lot of people will be telling me, but they could change it. But the way everything's panning out, unless something happens tomorrow night at Monday Night Raw, and it's a huge return, that's the only thing that can make a change. Yes. But if that doesn't happen, we're going to get the game versus the Beard. And if the game goes over, I'm going to go on like a month hiatus where I don't watch any Raw, any SmackDown. I'm going to be pure TNA. And you guys are going to hate this radio show on Sundays because I'm not going to know what to talk about because I'm not going to want to see Daniel Bryan get buried, screwed, or anything else again. We do have Evan Gesberg on the line. I'm going to go ahead and put him on. Evan, how's it going?
Good. How you doing?
Too many years.
Yeah. The years just fly by.
Yes, they do. It's been, I think, about 3 years since I've heard you on the other end of this microphone here.
All right, well, here we are.
I want to, first of all, thank you for joining us and talk a little bit of wrestling. We're going to get right into it. I know a lot of people know you for producing The Wrestler or being associated with that movie, and you've been on doing your thing with Legends TV and Legends Radio. I was able to catch up on a couple episodes recently, and I wanted to get right into it. How was your experience with The Wrestler?
I was the associate producer on The Wrestler, and basically I was the wrestling guy. I did 6 casting calls with tons of wrestlers, and ultimately Ron Killings and Romeo Roselli, and I brought in Necro Butcher and many of the Ring of Honor guys that you see in the background, and a lot of the indie guys were brought in through casting calls that I did. And I also brought in Mickey's stunt double and his trainer, etc., so on. And it was one of the great experiences of my life, and it's something we're all very proud of. And none of us got rich from it, but we're richer from doing it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, definitely. And is it true? I was doing a little bit of research, as I always do when I have guests, even though we've had you before. But since the last time we spoke, it looks like there's this film won over 40 awards. Is that an accurate number?
Well, I didn't really keep track of that, but what I can tell you is that Mickey was the Golden Globe Award winner, and he was nominated for Best Actor, of course, and I'm very proud of the fact that I acted with him in that very sad autograph scene. And,
yes, I remember that.
Yeah, and it's an interesting story behind that. I was on set that day, and Darren Aronofsky gets this smirk, and all of a sudden he goes, "Evan, come here," and I'm like, "Okay." And next thing I know, he's micing me, and he goes, "Walk the room, ask Mickey for an autograph and a Polaroid. Go up to him last." So the second director comes over with the script. All the script says is thank you for the autograph. So Mickey whispers in my ear and he says, "Just improv it." He thinks I'm an actor. I'm not an actor. So I'm saying to him what I would say to any legend. I saw you at the Garden. I loved you as a kid. Can I have your autograph? So he says to me, "What's your name?" And I'm thinking, and I go, "Evan," because there was no script, so it's so surreal. I'm playing myself in a fictional movie. If you ever see it again, so it was a great experience. So Aronofsky walks over to me, starts pounding me on the chest. He goes, "That was great. That was great." I go, "Thanks." I mean, I was scared out of my mind. There's 125 people on this set, cameras everywhere. And I'm acting with Mickey Rourke, so it was almost like a miracle, the whole thing. I mean, we struggled to get funding at the time. Mickey was not a box office commodity anymore. We asked for $18 million. We got $6 million, which is nothing. Wow. I mean, there are guys who get $6 million just in salary, a major star. So, it was done from the heart, and to Darren's credit, he would ask me, he would ask Alpha, he would ask the wrestlers, is this authentic? Is this authentic? He really wanted to do it right, and I'll give you an example. In the original script, the scene where Mickey's blading himself, everybody's watching, like, "Oh, my God, he's going to blade himself." And I'm like, "Darren, that would never happen. Nobody would care. It's like business as usual." So, they took that out of the script, et cetera, so on. He really wanted it to ring true. He really did.
Let me ask you, and this is a question that came in, and I don't even know what the whole story is behind it, but is it true that Mickey probably lost the Oscar for Best Actor because of his segment with Chris Jericho at WrestleMania 25? Is that just a big rumor?
I don't think I never heard that. I never heard that. Sean Penn was in Milk, and it was a great performance, and politically it's what people in Hollywood like. And our movie was rough. I mean, it was a bloodbath. There was a lot of nudity. You know, that was more that was more of a, you know, positive message, you know, and Sean Penn is a tremendous actor. You know, it's like apples and oranges what he and Mickey did that year, but you know, I don't think it had anything to do with WrestleMania. I never heard that before.
Yeah, it came in earlier, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and ask him and get it directly from the source, at least as close as possible to the source, you know. I know it's been about 3 years since we've spoken, and I want to get into some wrestling discussions.
Sure.
How do you feel wrestling has developed in the past 3 to 5 years? We got so many things, at least in the WWE aspect, that has changed with the network and that performance center. Do you feel like the wrestling future looks brighter now than it had before, or are we still?
I don't think it looks brighter at all. I think
really?
TNA is struggling tremendously, and Ring of Honor, who I love, I just love ROH. You know, they dollars and cents. It's tough for them, and you know, and you have what kind of amounts to a you know, one-horse town in the WWE, and you know, basically, you know, I mean, where do these guys go? I mean, where do they? In the old days, you had the territories, and you had so many different places to work, and now if TNA or WWE is not interested in you, it's going to be a real tough road. I mean, how many American guys are paying the bills just in Japan or Mexico? Very few. So, what's ironic to me is the WWE wrestling has actually improved from a few years ago. The Shield's great, Daniel Bryan's great, Cesaro is awesome, and you know, I think ironically the wrestling product is probably better. But you know, when you're the only game in town, you could shove things down people's throats like Randy Orton or Batista, who they're not particularly crazy about.
Well, I definitely don't even want to get into that. That's the main, that Batista versus Randy Orton is really one of the worst things on Raw and WWE right now. I just, you know, with the Performance Center, I think WWE as a product has gotten better, as you say, and I think it's great for their future. Have you heard any of the rumblings about Toby Keith and Jarrett possibly, you know, coming together and doing a new organization?
Well, you have to hope so. You have to hope that there's competition, because competition makes for a better product in general, like the Monday Night Wars, when you would turn on WCW and you had Dean Malenko and Eddie Guerrero and Mysterio, and you know, you had all these great wrestlers and great matches, and it's only going to make things better if you have a third promotion, a fourth promotion, a fifth promotion that matter. And right now, you know, TNA kind of feels like a sinking ship. I mean, you know, I think they were better a year or two ago, and now it's very cartoonish. You know, there's not much to really get into there.
Yeah, and I love talking because we haven't spoken in so long. And how much has it changed in 3 years? The dynamic of TNA. I think 3 years ago, they were going up against Raw for a couple weeks there. What do you think happened? Like, where was that downfall? Where do you think?
I think I could sum it up very easily. They never had the courage of their convictions. What they should have done from day one is build a different product, pushing the X division, pushing the high flyers, pushing the smaller guys. That's what they should have done. They didn't have the guts to go through with it, and what it became was, okay, let's do bad comedy like WWE. Let's do stilted dialogue like WWE. Let's do ridiculous angles. Let's do run-ins. And not only WWE, TNA has one of the greatest talent bases in the history of wrestling. They have Kurt Angle. They have Samoa Joe. They have Christopher Daniels. Okay, these are tremendous. They have the American Wolves. I mean, these are tremendous wrestlers. So I turned it on the other week. The American Wolves are wrestling Kazarian and Christopher Daniels, and the thing's over in 6 minutes. 6 minutes. Okay, because they're so busy with the talking and all the nonsense that and the ridiculous angles and the the backstage stuff that looks totally phony and scripted. I mean, why not just let those 4 guys go? If they had that same match at Ring of Honor in Manhattan, it would have gone 20 minutes and they would have blown the roof off the place. And it's wasted. It's a wasted talent base. They have the priorities totally backwards.
I mean, do you think that was a huge mistake bringing it now, looking back? If it is true, with Eric Bischoff and Hogan coming in, I mean, when they changed that ring, I saw it as like they're burying it. At one point, TNA was making 1.9 ratings, at 1.8 and 1.5. Now they're struggling to hit 1.0 a week. And I agree with you 100%. I think if they would have kept on that same route before these guys came in, they would have probably been in a different spot right now.
I can watch a 2-hour Impact in about 15 minutes on my TiVo, and I could watch a 3-hour Raw in maybe 30 or 40 minutes. There's not a lot of great wrestling, and that's the problem. It's all about sports entertainment. What about the wrestling? That's my ongoing issue.
I agree 100%. I know, I was excited about a lot of things legend, but now you're kind of putting it back into perspective. Yeah, it's more of an entertainment show. You're completely right with that.
It's like a talk show. Sometimes it's on for 20 minutes before anybody's locked up. I'm like, it's like a bad talk show,
Do you think they try to copy WWE with the entertainment and the talking? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But do you think they try to copy WWE too much?
That's exactly what they're doing. It's like Thunder. It's like WCW Thunder at the end. It's like a sinking ship, TNA. And believe me, I always root for the little. I always root for the little guys. Man, I would like nothing more than TNA to be a huge success. And I'll tell you, I've been to 2 TNA house shows, and basically it's the same issues. It's like there's barely any wrestling. It's all about hawking the merchandise. There's like a 45-minute intermission. What about the wrestling? That's what it's really supposed to be about.
Especially when they had that little slogan when Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan were there about wrestling matters and trying to stand out from WWE, and instead they made themselves look worse than WWE does.
Well, if it matters, let them wrestle.
Exactly.
Right.
I'm kind of next weekend is TNA lockdown, and I got tickets to go. I got the fan interaction, and I'm going to the pay-per-view. So I'm hoping at least Great Mood is going to be there, right? At Jeff Hardy, I get to meet them, and hopefully they put on a good show.
I saw Muda live about 2 years ago in Jersey on an indie show, and he was still good. He bulked up a lot. He's much bigger.
Yeah, I saw some recent pictures of him, and I was shocked.
Yeah.
I know that you posted some interesting comments today, and we've been holding off all show just for this moment, and to talk about the possible return of CM Punk.
Oh,
and I wanted to see what your feelings were on Punkster coming back tomorrow, possibly.
I think CM Punk is a great heel, and I think he's an okay face. I think it's kind of like Piper and Sergeant Slaughter and Morocco. When they turned face, they just weren't as effective. I mean, Punk's a natural heel, and when Punk was cutting those promos and going up against Cena, he had the same heat, he had the same response as Daniel Bryan's getting, pretty much. And now, he's another guy on the card. So I don't think they did him any favors by turning him face, to be honest.
I mean, do you think the whole thing is a work, or do you think it's legit?
Well, honestly, I think it might be a little of both. I don't know any more than you guys do, but the bottom line is either the guy's on or he isn't on. You know, he's on in great matches or he's on in okay matches. You know, to me, it's not life or death whether he comes back tomorrow night or not, because I think right now the hottest things they have, of course, are Daniel Bryan and the Shield and Cesaro. I think those are the guys that you know, it's revolving around at this point. And, you know, everything else is kind of secondary. I don't think the fans care one bit about these guys who have been around for 15, 20 years. They're stale, totally stale. And, you know, this is the young blood that they need to be pushing. And, you know, that's what makes wrestling interesting. I mean, how many times are you going to bring back Kane? You know, it's done to death. And you know, no disrespect, I mean, but it is done to death.
Well, you mentioned...
Go ahead, John. I'm sorry.
Sorry. You mentioned Cesaro. Did you see his match with Sami Zayn at NXT Arrival?
No, I haven't yet, but I heard nothing but good things. I saw him as Claudio Castagnoli in Ring of Honor 5-6 years ago, having better matches than he's having now in WWE. The guy's always been tremendous. He you know, it's like McMahon finally woke up and said, "Wow, this guy's worth pushing." And you know, the guy's just tremendous. I saw him wrestle Nigel McGuinness in New York for Ring of Honor. For Nigel was the champ at the time, and it's just great. The guy's always been great.
What do you think of, you mentioned some other upstarts that are coming up through WWE Younger Talent. What do you think of Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt family?
Yeah, I think they have the fans' interest, and I think they're entertaining. I don't think they're as good wrestlers as the Shield. I don't think they touch them from a technical standpoint, but, you know, I enjoy them.
If we could get your thought, oh, go ahead, Al. Go ahead.
No, I was just I wanted to talk a little bit of the road to WrestleMania, and what do you think about Hulk Hogan coming back and seeing him back in the WWE ring?
It makes sense, and they should bring Piper back, and you know, these guys are great talkers and great promo guys, and you know, I think it makes a lot of sense, especially with the 30th anniversary, and WrestleMania meant, you know, so much that first one that they were in. It was a huge event. I mean, Muhammad Ali was in it, and you know, I think it makes sense. And you know, I don't need to see either of these guys in the ring at this point. But let them sell tickets.
But we could have a wheelchair match or anything, you know, keep them nice and safe and confined. No, I'll play with you.
Yeah.
Knowing Vince, he might pull something like that. I know you don't want. I know your feelings about Randy Orton versus Batista, but it looks like we're going to get Daniel Bryan versus Triple H at Mania. Is that something that makes you want to buy the pay-per-view, or?
I think Daniel Bryan's one of these guys who could have a great match with just about anybody. I think him and Triple H would be tremendous. And, you know, I think the thing is the fans very clearly want him in the main event and to win a title, and it's not the match that they want. You know, this is either one of two scenarios. It's either, you know, they're doing a really slow build where when he finally wins the belt, it's going to be a huge deal, or, you know, McMahon and them are just like, oh, we're not listening to the public. We don't want a quote-unquote little guy on top, and they just don't perceive him to be the face of the company. So it's going to be one or the other. Either he's never going to get it, or he's going to, you know, get a mega push, and, you know, we're going to see soon enough. But, you know, I used to see Daniel Bryan against Nigel McGuinness in New York, and it was like the Dory Funk and Jack Briscoe or Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat of this generation. It was phenomenal. Better than anything the guy's doing in WWE, believe me. You know, but it was on a much smaller scale.
And I have a quick question. Are you a current subscriber to the new network?
No, I'm not.
Oh,
no,
man,
I'm not.
You're missing out. You're missing out.
See, I'm always from the support indie everything. I would rather support the little guy than a billion-dollar corporation. And my question is this: okay, let's say this network becomes huge money-making network. Well, what residuals are these guys going to get from this? What about what about the smaller, payoffs on the pay-per-views without the, with less buys, etc.? Are these guys going to be properly compensated for this network? I mean, I'm curious about that. The fans don't seem to care about that whatsoever. But
what's funny is that they're doing a bunch of new pre-shows and post-shows featuring guys like Big Show. They even had Ric Flair on. And I was thinking about the same thing. I'm like, they're taking time out of, it's more work, and they're probably not getting paid any extra. I mean, how are they going to determine, okay, you're just going to go ahead and do this? An hour show today, tough luck if you don't like it, It's kind of messed up, and hopefully they do get some type of reimbursement with the amount of people are watching the actual show itself.
Well, think about it. You're going to have less pay-per-view buys, obviously, because a lot of people are getting the network, because they're getting the pay-per-views as part of the package. So will these guys be properly compensated? Because this was income that they were counting on. You have to understand something. These guys, for the most part, John Cena and Orton, they're the exception to the rule. You have guys who they get their 1, 2, 3 year runs, and that's it. That's it. They're back on the indies wrestling for chump change, or they're back to a day job. And this is their only opportunity to make real money, and it's something they've worked for, for many, many years, sacrificed for, destroyed their bodies for. And, it's like, I want to see them compensated. I'm not worried about McMahon being compensated,
I think he's set for life. I think all the fans have set him up for life. We're about to wrap things up, but I do have one question, and hopefully I can hear a good answer. Will we ever see a pre-production meetings or anything about The Wrestler 2?
I don't think so, because Rob, the writer, told me face-to-face, he said what he meant at the end of that movie was he either dies there or he dies in the next match or the match after, because he couldn't function in the real world, Randy the Ram Robinson. He could only function in the ring, and he was going to die in the ring, and that was his intention. And I don't think you would be able to top that. I think what would happen is it would be kind of like the Rocky films, where Rocky 2 wasn't quite as good as the first one, and Rocky 3 is more cartoonish than the second one, et cetera, so on. It wasn't intended to be a franchise. It was intended to be, a quality indie film, and I don't think there'll ever be a sequel. There's no talk of it anyway.
And do you think he would ever do some sort of spin-off? Maybe a whole different story, but a production about wrestling? Do you think that would ever be a possibility?
You mean Aronofsky to do another wrestling film?
Yeah, but comparable to The Wrestler.
I doubt it. He's a world-class filmmaker, and he went from wrestling to ballet. Now Noah's coming out. I mean, he likes to explore different worlds, and I don't think he's going to come back to wrestling. I think there's the potential for other people to make great films about wrestling, whether it's documentaries or, a scripted film. I think there's a lot of material there, wrestling. Johnny Valiant said to me, he's a friend of mine, he said to me that wrestlers are larger than life. Wrestlers have more charisma than actors. And I think there's so many, stories that could be told I mean, there's been plenty of boxing movies over the years, and I don't see why there couldn't be another great wrestling movie. But to answer your question, I don't think Aronofsky's going to be doing it.
All right, before we let you go, we want to kind of do a little word association, and then we'll wrap things up. Is that okay with you?
Sure. All
right, this is always fun. We used to do it back in the day, and I would say, why not bring it back with Evan? All right, so let's go ahead and start with the precious Dixie Carter.
Misguided. What do you want? One word?
Well, maybe we should keep it like one word. Yeah, it might be here all night.
All right.
Jeff Jarrett.
Misguided. Jeff Jarrett, top notch. Always liked him.
Vince McMahon.
Thank you. Go ahead. What was that? Vince McMahon.
Vince McMahon. I'm sorry.
Ruthless.
Eric Bischoff.
Clueless.
Oh shit! All right, Triple H.
Tremendous in his own way.
All right, and let's just go with the last one, Evan Ginsberg.
Supportive. I always like to support the arts, support indie wrestling, support guys starting out in radio. I think there's not enough of that in the wrestling world where idiot indie promoters tear down each other's signs and feud with each other rather than work together. I think there's not enough of that. I'm doing LegendsTV.net, LegendsRadio.net, and we always have indie artists, not just legends, and try to give people exposure. And I think it's important. I think it's not all about the almighty dollar. And WWE recently had $599 tickets for their show at Madison Square Garden for a house show. And I think it's really taken a bad turn where it's all about the money, and it's a different sport. When I was a kid, it was a blue collar sport. You could afford it. You'd go once a month to the Garden, and you'd see something great. Now it's $25 to $100 a ticket, and $599 for some kind of special package where you get the chair and you get an autograph from one guy, and it's mercenary. It's just mercenary,
And then ask you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I know, Evan, you've been doing Legends TV for, is it about 10 years, more than that?
I've been doing Legends Radio for about close to 10 years, I would say. Yeah, I started up 2006, I believe, and Legends TV, we just started last year, and we've been having a great time with it. Lanny Poffos come on, Melissa Coates, Angel Orsini, tons of indie wrestlers. But it's not a wrestling show. It's an arts program. Yeah. We have great musicians, and we've had some million-selling recording artists, Martha Wash from the Weather Girls, performing live. And, it's whether it's radio, whether it's TV, whether it's wrestling, it's a blank canvas. It's your choice what you choose to do with it. And that's always been my point of contention with WWE and even TNA. If it was up to me, I'd have Daniel Bryan wrestling CM Punk for an hour on TV, instead of having stupid skits and stilted dialogue. And I'd have Kurt Angle and Christopher Daniels wrestling for a half hour. It's like they everything is there, and they choose to do the wrong things with it. That's the way I see it.
Let me ask you. You just started Legends TV about a year ago, and I got everything mixed up. But what is your ultimate goal? Where do you see Legends TV going? I saw a couple episodes, and I enjoyed them, and I love the idea of bringing all these different forms of artists together into one place and discussing their views. Where do you see it in a few years? What is your ultimate goal with
the ultimate goal would be to have it syndicated or on a major station, or to have top sponsors bankrolling it. I always had this strange idea. Like if you were on, instead of the nonsense that you have 11:30 at night with some sitcom star plugging a TV show or a I always had this idea. Why couldn't you have like a former president sitting next to Abdullah the Butcher, sitting next to a porn queen, sitting next to a musician, and just have a conversation? That was always like, I had this crazy idea, and I do that now. On my show, no ex-presidents, of course, but I'll give you an example. Next Saturday, legendstv.net, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard. I'm going to have 3 great indie hip-hop artists, a poet, a comedian, and a website guru. That's an interesting mix of people. It's an interesting mix of people, And this past Saturday, I had indie wrestlers with blues players. I mean, it's a strange combination, but somehow you can make it work because I sincerely think that there's enough people in the world that have diverse interests. They have, it's more than just wrestling. It's more than just music. The people that scam me, the people that wake up in the morning and go, I hate John Cena. It's like, there's got to be something more going on in your life than you wake up and that's your first thought. I mean,
Well, it's really an awesome vision. I mean, I hope everyone can get to see it. It's coming together really nicely, and I enjoyed the last few episodes I've seen. I look forward to the one on Saturday for sure, and I hope you do get it syndicated. That'd be awesome, and I'm going to be cheering you on. And I hope it does work out.
Yeah, I think there's audience out there. I sincerely believe that in the future people are going to get away from network TV. Even what you guys are doing right now, internet radio is going to be in cars very shortly. Cars, where they could turn on and listen to you guys in their car, and that's amazing because 10 years ago you wouldn't have dreamt of this. So, if you do something long enough and good enough and promote it hard enough, I think, anything has the potential to take off. And, especially if it's something so different that people notice, because otherwise it's like a needle in a haystack. What I tell, I don't know your usual format, but what I tell internet wrestling guys, I say, don't review every match in Raw or SmackDown, because all the other shows are doing that. Do something different.
Yeah,
make people notice you. Yeah.
What my goal is to make this not a wrestling recap show, but a wrestling talk show. Let's talk about everything that's going on, and not sit there and okay, this is match A between wrestler 1B and 1A, and here's a segment and then here's a commercial. So that's my ultimate goal. I really wanted to be a wrestling talk show and not a recap show. I can recap a show in my sleep,
Yeah, what I would do is take it a step further. You have a guy like Kamala on, and you talk to him about wrestling, but also talk to him about his music. The guy's a musician, and you get Billy Graham on, and you talk to him not only about wrestling, but talk about his painting. I think there's wrestling can be kind of narrow, because how many times are you going to go over the same thing? Is Daniel Bryan getting pushed enough, too hard? It's like there's other roads to travel with all of this. Like Aronofsky. If you look at the Wrestler movie, there was only like 13 minutes of wrestling in that movie. That's what people don't realize. I mean, it was bigger than wrestling. It transcended wrestling, and I think that's what makes something. Like, I'll give you an example. If you talk to an old school guy, any legend, ask him about the people they've met. Johnny Valiant wrestled for oil sheiks 3 a.m. in Saudi Arabia, okay? with not a woman in the audience, because it was a Muslim crowd. Not a woman in the audience. The guy wrestled in front of oil sheiks. Butcher Vachon wrestled in India in front of 200,000 people, and there was a riot. There was a riot. Okay,
wow.
he had to run for his life. I mean, these are human interest stories that are bigger than wrestling. And these, when I go to the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame up in Amsterdam, New York, once a year, you know what I enjoy the most? I sit with guys like Butcher Vachon, and they just tell stories. And believe me, it's just more interesting than, you know, analyzing, you know, what Santina Morella is doing on Raw. You know, trust me. Yeah.
The dance off.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, and thank you for the advice. That means a lot to us.
Oh no, man! If I could help in any way, I'd be glad to. And you know, I could even get you guys some interesting guests down the road. You know, no problem. And
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
appreciate
thank
that
you
a lot, man.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you. I know it's Sunday night. Thank you for taking time and talking some wrestling with us.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Okay, take care, guys. Thank you.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Well, that was Evan Ginsberg. I think he was great, and I look forward to having him back on the show. John, thank you for helping me out on that one. My voice is starting to leave me with this cold that I have.
Not a problem. And you know what? We're going to take another little breather here. And we're going to be right back. We're going to air another commercial. We'll be right back. Next week, Wrestling365 goes extreme. Don't miss an exclusive interview with former WWE, ECW, and TNA superstar, the War Machine, Rhino. It's Wrestling365 next Sunday, March 9th, 5 to 7 p.m.
All right, ladies.
And now, the DVD of the week, brought to you by WrestlingDVDnews.com. Sorry, I think I might have played a little prematurely. But we have Taj Gallagher on the line from Wrestling-News.net. He's going to do a brief DVD review. If you want to go ahead, Taj. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I'm pretty good, guys. How are you?
Doing good. So what's the DVD you were reviewing for us this week?
It is WWE's Best of Raw and SmackDown 2013 edition.
All right.
It's basically, you know, it features the best segments and matches from all of last year, just out in the US, and it's coming out next week in the UK. So, you know, you can buy it already. UK people can pre-order it. It's pretty good, you know.
If you had to pick, what would you think would be the highlight of 2013 in the WWE?
The highlight of 2013? Probably the rise of Daniel Bryan is probably the obvious option, but CM Punk's, you know, in-ring promo scenes with The Rock at the very start of 2013 are second to none for the entire year.
Yeah, they were entertaining, and it's always nice to see like two different eras, like the main stars of two different eras collide like that. But any DVDs you're looking forward to in the Outlook coming up later this year?
Well, probably, you know, the pay-per-view ones are pretty good. Some biography DVDs, you know, they're always, the documentaries on them are always, you know, really insightful. Especially the Triple H one recently. You know, Triple H gets a bad name about being big-headed and an egomaniac, but it really shows you that it's not actually the case at all.
Right. Well, do you want to stick around for a little bit? We had a couple more topics, or do you got to get going?
I'll stick around.
Al, there's one thing that's been in the news the last few weeks or so. You know, the negotiating period just ended not too long ago with NBC Universal and WWE. If they lose NBC Universal as the TV home for Raw and SmackDown, where do you think, where would you like to see them end up?
Yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot. It will be interesting to see where they go if they would stick just to the network. There's so many people that can actually just, you know, have the network, and I feel like that's where they want to go. Maybe they'll offer it for free and still have advertising during that period of time. I don't know how that would work, I don't know. I mean, if they don't, it's so hard not to see them on the USA Network or Sci-Fi or NBC with those Hall of Fame specials and tribute to the Truth specials that they usually have. Where can I see them? Why not back to TNT? You never know.
Taz, do you think WWE leaves NBC Universal? Do you think they stay, or if they do you think they would go to a network maybe like Spike or branch off to, like Al said, maybe like a TNT kind of thing?
Right, well, being not in the US, that's always been on Sky Sports here, so it's hard to offer an outsider's perspective.
Probably thought about that, but...
Yeah. I don't know how far apart they are on negotiating any deal for it, so I really don't see them leaving the US network. It's been a good home for them. You know, WWE's a good ratings bringer in for USA, so I think it's just a case of working out the right deal for both parties. But Raw will never go network exclusive. It would be a bad move for business.
Are you talking like network channel, or are you talking like WWE network itself?
Like WWE network. I don't know how US television works.
Gotcha. Al, I don't know about you, man. You know, WWE's been having Raw on USA for, better part of, aside from a couple years, for what, 20 years almost? 15, 20 years?
Because I can remember.
And, I mean, wouldn't it make more sense to you if they put it on NBC? I mean, as far as like a greater outlook and a vaster audience that they could reach, because not everybody has cable. There still are a lot of people that still have only the basic channels throughout America. And I mean, to me, it just would make more sense if you put it on a channel like that where everybody gets the channel. I mean, there could be some people who don't have cable that are giant wrestling fans, that whereas you put them on NBC like that, and I don't know, easier to find.
I think that's beyond my stuff and my knowledge. I believe that they've tested the waters with those Saturday night main event.
Yep, Saturday night main event.
Yeah,
yep.
right. So, but the ratings on that didn't even come close to even SmackDown, or it was. And so with SmackDown, you know what? If they were to do a test run, why not try it? Why not go a month or 4 weeks? Maybe give it 3 weeks or 3 months. Unlike when we had Impact on Monday Night Raw, on Monday night. I'm sorry. Give it a 3-month run and see if the numbers increase. And if they don't, I mean, it's all for nothing to put them on NBC. It would be kind of cool, because then it would be kind of like with the NFL. You know, the NFL is mainstream in that aspect, and they're on those NBCs and CBS and Fox. It'd be kind of cool to see Monday Night Raw every Monday night on NBC, you know. But at the end of the day, I don't see them leaving. And if they were to leave, man, what an opportunity if the owners of TNA had the brass to try to move into the USA Network. Maybe we would.
USA wouldn't pick them up.
Oh, well, why not? You just lost.
It was even this week. USA is so used to having shows near the top of cable, ratings-wise. You have a show like Impact, which this week didn't even crack, what was it, the top 50 or top 100?
But that's because they don't have the backing either. You know, they don't advertise everywhere like Raw and all that. You know what I mean? I mean, that's
True.
one of the problems with TNA. They've never had this financial backing or any major
marketing backing would be better.
Yeah, Spike TV is not a USA Network or NBC. Spike TV is like you got your Pepsi Cola or Coca Cola, then you have your Czech Cola. Spike is Czech Cola, right? It's that second brand of TV. So you kind of bump them up. I don't see why they wouldn't be able to pull out at least a 2.0. Maybe have a couple, upgrades on their roster, meaning name-wise. But that was something that would have probably worked 3 or 4 years ago. I don't know if with the current roster they have, and they put, magnets on every Monday night with the damn title, I don't think it's going to take, at least it'll take a while for it to take, At the end of the day, I don't see this happening at all. I just don't see it happening anytime soon. Seeing WWE off of NBC, maybe in a couple of years, but right now the network just launched, and it happens that everything came toe and toe. I believe if the network wasn't like Netflix and they had their own channel, like I'm talking about DirecTV 255 is the WWE network, then we'll have a different situation where okay, I can see SmackDown there. I can see Monday Night Raw there because they have their own channel on Comcast, DirecTV, all these major companies. But not yet. I don't see a big change happening, and I think that, on the other hand, I think that WWE has an even better chance to get an even better contract with them because they're going to bend over backwards to try to keep them. You know, I think NBC is going to bend over backwards to try to keep both of the shows on their network. You know.
Do you think Raw would be better off if it moved from maybe like a 7 to 10 if they wanted to keep a 3-hour time slot?
I mean, there's always a drop-off, you know, on that third hour. I think, and I've said it before, I don't think it's smart to go 3 hours on Monday nights. It began the downfall of WCW. I think it was one of the aspects with the ratings-wise, you know, but I don't know.
Well, because if you see the ratings,
you
see the well, because ever since they went to 3 hours, at least. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, if you watch the ratings come in every week, it's always the third hour that loses 500, 600,000 viewers from the peak of the show. So if you put it on earlier, I don't know if it's people going to bed or if it's just people just disinterested, which I don't know how, seeing as how Raw's ended some of the ways. But, I mean, if you put it on earlier, do you think it would help it?
This is a double-edged sword with having a 3-hour show. If you do a 7 o'clock time slot, you have the other side of the United States having to be at a show at, 4 o'clock in the afternoon? Right? It's a 3 or 4 hour difference depending where you're at.
Well, they're later than us.
No, they're earlier than us. So I lived in Seattle, they were earlier.
Oh, right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm in Miami. Yep. I'm thinking about you're on Eastern time zone. You're talking about a huge 4-hour difference there, right? So that's the double-edged sword there. Then when it comes to it's 10 o'clock and the third hour starting, well, WWE is not it's not the Attitude Era where it's for teenagers and whatnot. It's more for family and friends, and your kids are going to sleep at a certain time. So, yeah, there's going to be a drop-off, you know? I think a 2-hour time slot is the best, but they have so much talent that I guess it's just taking 3 hours, and they're not losing money. I think the worst of both evils, or the best of both is staying on till 11. Because if you come on 7, I think it's just too much of a time difference for you to put on a show in California for that matter, you know?
Yeah, I can see your point with that. I didn't really think about that when I said 7 o'clock. But the big rumor going around lately, we only got a couple minutes here before we got to get wrapping up. Big rumor going around, speculation, is that Kurt Angle, whose contract with TNA expires in September, what do you think about him going back to WWE when his contract expires?
I'll be honest, I would love to see it. But I'm worried about Kurt Angle and his state of mind. I know he's been getting into some trouble on and off here, doing a lot of the drinking. If he does go back to World Wrestling Entertainment, I hope they give him some help before they start putting him on a rigorous schedule. I think he needs it. I think he's doing what he has to. Yeah, I know he's probably taking those Vicodins and oxycodone to try to release. And I'm not trying to be smart here. I mean, he's getting those DUIs. I mean, I'm telling you, he needs some help. He needs some of that WWE help, get his head straight, and come back. What, you think I'm
well, he's got, how old is Kurt Angle? What, 40, 41, 42?
Well,
I mean, do you really think they'd put him on a full-time contract, or do you think he'd get a Legends deal kind of like, Shawn Michaels had towards the end, or maybe like, not as rare as The Undertaker is, but, maybe only compete WrestleMania season and then maybe for SummerSlam Survivor Series?
I could see it that way, but I still think he needs the help. I think he needs help. Just like Jake the Snake needed help. And why are you laughing at me? Have you not heard the stories?
He just went from talking about Kurt Angle's return to popping Vicodin.
That poor man, dude. He's crippled out there these days.
Remember, boys and girls, this is a family show, and we don't encourage such behavior. I don't know. That threw me off completely.
Oh, well, speaking of Kurt Angle, TNA, and what's coming up, we got 5 minutes. Next week it should be exciting. I'm going to be at the show. I think Kurt Angle
be interesting.
Will be great. Yeah, go ahead.
Should be interesting with the crowd. I mean, if CM Punk doesn't return tomorrow night, how do you think this crowd's going to react? I mean, do you think they're going to try and go out and maybe get somebody like Chris Jericho or try to get somebody to come back to try to appease them if they can't get CM Punk, or do you think there's just no pleasing them?
You're in Chicago, buddy.
Leading up, yeah, exactly.
If you're
that's
leading
the
up
elephant
to Chicago, that's what I'm saying. If you lead up into Chicago, the fans are pissed off. You're going to be in his home state where he goes to all the games. He's at all the games. I'm talking about Major League Baseball, I think he's at soccer games and hockey games. Everybody loves him there. Locally, he's a star, more than we could imagine. Yeah, you could bring out Andre the Giant back from the dead. It ain't gonna do nothing. The fans are gonna be upset. They need to bring Punk back. Hopefully, they work out their situation and we see Punk come back and run the damn show.
If they brought Steve Austin back, I mean, that might be the only thing that would make them happy. That's just because.
Out too. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say if there's anything that they could try to do, that would probably be it. But I don't know. It's going to be a hostile crowd for anybody in that place, including Daniel Bryan, in my honest opinion.
Yeah, they might turn on him. And you know what? If there is somebody, it is Stone Cold Steve Austin. They have similar stories, how he quit. I mean, if this is real and out of work, who else would you want there other than Steve Austin? He left the company and he came back eventually. Maybe he's the guy to try to take that heat off of the crowd,
Yeah, it's going to be interesting tomorrow night, that's for sure, man.
All right, well, we got a big show next week. We got Rhino locked in for next Sunday. I will be in and out all night. That's what she said. But I will be...
this baby that we call Wrestling365 next week.
All right.
Al is gone. John Curry's back in the host seat 1 week only. We'll have Taz Gallagher, who I believe is still on the line. We completely forgot about him.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah. Sorry about that, buddy.
Yeah, no worries.
But you may be here, may not be here.
Yeah, I'll be here next week if I'm needed.
We got Mr. Timothy Givens, who was on last week. He's going to pop in next week. Maybe Chandra will be on next week. Who knows? Maybe Mr. James Rolls, go back to my past here a little bit. Maybe get somebody else to pop in for a few minutes next week. I don't know. Like you said, we got Rhino next week. Al's not going to be here too often. May do some field reporting. Going to be a good interview with Rhino next week, Mr. Merriman.
Yes, sir.
All right, I think that's all we got here. I'm John Curry with... Who are you again?
Alfonso Merriman.
And, of course, we have Mr. Taz Gallagher, who's also on the line. Thank you for joining us this week. We hope you come back next week. We'll see you around. Don't forget to tune in. Next week, Wrestling365 goes extreme. Don't miss an exclusive interview with former WWE, ECW, and TNA superstar, the War Machine, Rhino. It's Wrestling365 next Sunday, March 9th, 5 to 7 p.m. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Miss a part or all of tonight's show? No problem. Head on over to blogtalkradio.com/365network or visit 365sportsnetwork.com or search Wrestling365 on iTunes, as each episode is uploaded shortly after every broadcast. Don't forget to come on back next week, 5 to 7 p.m. And for all of us here at Wrestling365, I'm John Curry. Have a good night, and we'll see you next week.